All right, so today we're going to take a deep dive into this Infinix GT20 Pro and see what this phone is all about.
Okay.
We're looking at this tech review here, and looks like it could be pretty interesting. Definitely trying to avoid any of those RechargeMyTopup distractions they were talking about in the review. We're here for the phone itself.
Right.
So right off the bat, one thing that kind of jumps out at me is the design. They say it's got this sleek design.
Yeah.
But it also has like an IP54 rating, which means it can handle some dust and splashes. You don't usually see that in a mid-range phone.
Yeah, you're right. That's not typical. It makes you think, like, who are they targeting this phone at? Not just like a fashion-conscious person, you know?
Right. Yeah. Maybe somebody a little bit more active.
Yeah, maybe someone who's a little rougher on their tech.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of being out and about, let's talk about the display. So it's a 6.78-inch AMOLED screen.
Okay.
Pretty standard size these days. But AMOLED, you get those nice vibrant colors, the deep blacks.
Okay.
There's a difference.
Yeah, especially for watching videos or, scrolling through social media.
Yeah, endlessly scrolling.
Exactly.
So let's look under the hood. They've got this MediaTek Dimensity 8200 Ultimate processor. And then on top of that, they even added like a dedicated gaming chip called the Pixelwar.
Oh, wow.
And the review was calling it like beastly. I don't know, it's like they put a sports car engine in a family sedan.
Yeah, kinda. Although one thing that caught my eye with the performance side of things was this bypass charging. Have you heard about this?
Not really.
Okay, so basically, when you're gaming and your phone starts to get hot.
Oh, yeah.
So this basically routes the power directly to the system, bypasses the battery,
Interesting.
keeps things cooler, and it's supposed to protect the battery from that heat.
So it's a win-win.
Yeah, especially for gamers.
Yeah, for sure. Or anyone who's like really pushing their phone.
Exactly. And, talking about power, we got to talk about the battery itself. We've got a 5,000 mAh battery, which, it's kind of standard these days.
Yeah, you see that a lot.
But with this processor and everything, it should last all day, even for power users. And then on top of that, it's got 45W fast charging.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's always a plus. Nobody wants to be tethered to a wall outlet all day.
No, definitely not. So moving on to the camera. This is where it gets really interesting. So we got a 108 MP main camera.
Wow.
Which is pretty impressive for a mid-range phone. But what's really cool is that they've included optical image stabilization, OIS.
OIS. Okay. Yeah, that's a big deal if you want clear pictures, especially in low light, or if things are moving fast.
Exactly. It compensates for the little hand movements that can blur your shots, helps the sensor take in more light without the shake.
So you get sharper pictures. And
you don't usually find that in a phone at this price point.
Interesting. So they got this high-resolution main camera with OIS, but they also have like a 2MP macro and a depth sensor. Yeah. It seems like they're going for quality over quantity with the cameras.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's better to have one really good camera than several mediocre ones.
Makes sense.
And it looks like they haven't skimped on the video either. 4K video at 60 frames per second, which is, a huge plus for anyone who wants to create content.
Yeah, definitely. For all those mobile filmmakers out there.
Yeah.
All right, so before we go too crazy with the camera, let's talk about software. The GT20 Pro runs on the latest Android 14. But then they have their own XOS 14 for GT on top of that.
Okay.
The review didn't go into too much detail, but they said it was a smooth user experience.
Well, that's good, but what's even better? Updates.
Oh, yeah.
And it looks like Infinix is actually taking this seriously. They're promising 2 major Android updates and 3 years of security patches.
Wow, that's impressive for a phone at this price.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, think about it. You get a phone that's going to stay up to date and secure for a while.
Right.
Which is great for anyone on a budget.
Absolutely.
I mean, remember the bad old days when you buy a budget phone and it would be stuck on like an ancient version of Android?
Oh, yeah.
No updates, no security patches.
It's stuck in the past.
It's like buying a car that only runs on leaded gasoline.
Yeah, good analogy.
All right, so we've talked about the design, the display, performance camera software. But there's one big question that remains. How much is this all going to cost?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question. The review didn't actually mention a price.
No, they didn't.
But they did talk about value for money quite a bit.
They did.
Seems like they know their target audience. People who want a lot of bang for their buck.
Yeah, for sure.
Like you.
Hey, yeah, that's me. So putting it all together, we've got a phone with a durable design, great display, powerful processor, impressive camera, decent software updates. But the big question is, how much will it cost?
Right. And if they can price this phone competitively, It could really shake things up.
Yeah, it could be a game changer.
Make other brands step up their game.
Absolutely.
But the real test is going to be in the real world. How's that battery life hold up? Does the camera really live up to the hype?
Yeah. Is the software actually smooth and enjoyable?
All good questions.
Definitely.
And questions you should be asking yourself too, What matters most to you in a phone? Is it the camera, the performance, battery life, software, or maybe a little bit of everything?
Yeah, good point. Think about how you use your phone. What are your must-have features? So one thing I was just thinking about with the camera, the review mentioned a 32MP front-facing camera, but they didn't really talk about it that much.
Yeah, that's true. It's just kind of a side note.
Yeah, and they did mention that it can only record video at like 2K 30 fps.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because the rear camera, goes all the way up to 4K 60.
Right. That is a pretty big difference.
Makes you wonder if they're trying to target a specific type of user with that, higher quality rear camera.
Yeah, maybe. Remember how we were talking about maybe an active user with the IP rating and the focus on gaming and all that?
Right.
Maybe they're thinking about someone who's more likely to be filming the world around them than themselves.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Especially since they made a big deal about the 4K 60 fps recording for content creators. Exactly. And speaking of catering to certain users, let's talk about this XOS 14 for GT software.
Right.
Seems like they've customized Android 14 specifically for this phone.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious to see how that plays out. Hopefully they added some useful features without weighing it down with a bunch of bloatware. Nobody wants a phone that's like cluttered with apps they'll never use.
No, for sure. It's all about that balance.
Right.
And, while we don't know all the details about XOS 14 yet, the fact that they're committing to 2 major Android updates and 3 years of security patches does give me some hope.
Yeah.
Shows they're thinking long-term about the software.
Yeah, that's a relief. Remember like back in the day when you would get a budget phone?
Yeah.
And it would be stuck on like, an old version of Android?
No.
No updates, no security patches.
It's
like buying a new car and being told it only runs on leaded gasoline.
Uh-huh. Exactly. Okay, so, speaking of things you shouldn't have to accept, let's talk about the elephant in the room.
Okay.
The price. Yeah, the $1 million question, right? So annoyingly, the review doesn't actually say how much this phone is going to cost.
Right. They don't give a specific number.
No, but they do talk about value for money a lot.
They do. It seems like they're really targeting, the savvy consumer.
Right.
The one who does their research to compare specs before making a decision.
Yeah, someone like me, basically.
Exactly.
So, okay, putting it all together, we've got a phone with a durable design, great display, powerful processor, impressive camera, and a decent software update policy.
Mm-hmm.
But the big question mark is the price.
Right. That's the missing piece of the puzzle. If they can get the pricing right on this thing, I think they could really have a winner.
Yeah.
Could shake things up in the market,
Yeah, force the other brands to step up.
Exactly.
But like you said, the real test is going to be in the real world. How's that battery actually last? Does that camera really live up to the hype? Is that software actually smooth and enjoyable to use?
Yeah, those are all the questions.
All good questions.
And questions that you should be asking yourself too. Think about how you use your phone. What are your must-have features? Do you prioritize photography, gaming, battery life, software, or maybe a little bit of everything?
Okay, so we're back. And we've covered a lot with this Infinix GT20 Pro. Everything from the design and the display to the performance in the camera. But now it's time to kind of step back and look at the big picture. See what this phone is really all about.
Yeah, and looking at it all, it seems like Infinix is trying to do something pretty interesting here, taking features that you'd normally find in like a much more expensive phone.
Yeah.
And putting them into this mid-range device.
Yeah, and they kept talking about that value for money in the review. It's like they're really going after a certain type of buyer,
Right, someone who's really thinking about what they're getting for their money, does their research, isn't swayed by the big brand names or, fancy marketing.
Yeah, someone who wants the best tech, but without breaking the bank.
Right. And that's probably you listening to this right now.
Yeah. Hopefully we're giving you all the info you need to figure out if this phone is right for you.
Exactly. So let's do a final rundown. What have we learned about the Infinix GT20 Pro?
All right. So we've got that durable design with the IP54 rating, beautiful AMOLED display, powerful processor, camera system with that 108MP sensor, and optical image stabilization. And I think maybe most importantly, a promise of good software support with those updates and security patches.
Right. And don't forget about that fast charging And the massive battery.
Oh, yeah. Gotta love that all-day battery life.
Absolutely.
So they really have checked a lot of boxes here. But of course, it all comes back to that one thing that we're still missing, the price.
Yep. That's the big question mark.
If Infinix can nail the pricing on this phone, I think they could really have a hit on their hands.
Yeah, I agree. Could be a real game changer.
Shake things up in the market.
Absolutely.
Force other brands to up their game.
Exactly. But ultimately, the decision is yours. We've given you the information. Now you got to weigh it against your own needs and priorities.
All right, think about how you use your phone. What features are must-haves for you? Do you prioritize photography, gaming, battery life?
Yeah.
A smooth software experience.
And, don't just take our word for it. Do your own research. Read other reviews. Check out the full specs.
Yeah, and most importantly, trust your gut. If something feels off, or if a phone doesn't seem right for you, don't be afraid to move on. Plenty of other phones out there.
That's right. And that's it for our deep dive into the Infinix GT 20 Pro. Hopefully you found it helpful and maybe even a little bit entertaining.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep into the world of tech.